Hello, hello, welcome to the Mystic Path. Hello, everyone. This will be a few things. Well, first disclaimer, it is thunderstorming out here in Florida. We need it, so we're grateful to Gaia for the rains. The Mystic Cat, Watson, is below my feet. He's been a little rambunctious. I've been taking notes, channeling, getting prepared, and he's been all up in it. So, full disclaimer, he may just jump up here and join. Okay. This is going to be, we're in the middle of Mercury Retrograde right now, and then we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio coming up. Okay? And if you remember, in our new moon, we had a solar eclipse. So, eclipse season, you know, always a little unpredictable. So, I have some notes here. Let's see. Okay, this full moon also is known as the full moon of flowers, which we've talked about before, right? Because back in the native indigenous times, flowers were blooming in May, so that's why they called it that. I also found somewhere in England they called it the milk moon, because during this time cows could be milked 3 times a day. I mean, who knew? We learned something new, right? That's why I printed those out, because I was like, interesting little factoids, right? And then as always, I have some little notes here. We're gonna pull cards. We'll hopefully read from the Magic Days book. Nadine Jane. Yeah. Psychic Tarot for the Heart, Spellcasting Oracle, Crystallary, Illustrated Crystallary, Secret Language of Light, possibly the Delos Tarot, whatever I feel called to pull. Okay. Okay, so let's get into it. So, like I mentioned, we're in Mercury retrograde. It started April 21st and goes till May 14th. Taurus energy, because we're now in Taurus season, the sun is in Taurus, has a tendency to be stubborn a little bit and resistant, and they have a tendency to bury their trauma and their emotionally challenging experiences, and you know, they just like don't deal with it. They just dig it down in the earth, cover it up, and they don't deal with it. And that is like Taurus energy. It's that energy. So Taurus also, by the way, has great qualities. They're very, they like to be happy, right? They want to like have a happy experience and like be charming and gregarious, and they like to indulge in the finer things, material possessions, right? All this Taurus energy embodies those things. This retrograde is going to kind of force up all of that buried stuff. So if you have a lot of Taurus in your chart, and here he is. Oh, you're all wet, bud. You must have been out on the lanai. All right, well, get settled. You're welcome to stay. But get settled, okay? Thank you. Okay, of course, it's like he just is like dying to lay on the papers. He's like, but Mom, I need to lay on the papers. Anyway, so if you have Taurus in your chart, or even if you don't, and you have Scorpio, because the moon's going to be in Scorpio, and you have a tendency to bury like your emotional challenges and to not deal with things that happen to you and just, like whoop, move right on. Something happens, you just shove it down and move right on. If we all do it to a degree, right? But if you've been doing that, now is the time. It will be. This energy is like forcing it up, right? It's forcing it up for us to acknowledge it, reflect on it, try to learn from it, and then release it and let it go. And when we talk about letting go and releasing, what we mean is like acknowledging it. I always say, I heard somebody say this, so I don't want to take credit for it. But I do not remember who I heard say it. So, but you can't heal what you don't reveal, right? So this stuff is coming up to be revealed so that we can acknowledge it, do whatever we need to do to move through it, grieve it, address it, right? If you feel like you owe somebody an apology, or you felt wronged, or you felt like you need to express something to someone, now's the time. Do it. Don't keep pushing it down and avoiding it. It will eventually come up, right? So it's always better to just face these things and like get on with it. Okay, hold on. It's really... Okay, sorry. It's getting a little crazy outside, so it just caught my eye. Apologies. See that? Avoidance. I'm talking about heavy stuff, and my ego's like, let's avoid this for a minute. Classic, right there. It happens that quickly, right? Okay, so during this time, buried emotions, buried memories, even happy ones, not all traumatic ones, but sometimes something wonderful happens to us, right? Or, well, like, I'll give you an example. I was married once, right? And when I first got divorced, I could not even see any good left. And like, why was I in this relationship? So much traumatic things had happened that it had totally outweighed the good things, right? And it took me like healing to be able to look back on it and be like, oh, you know what? It wasn't all bad. There were some great happy times, right? So, oops, I'm gonna spill my water here. So, reflecting, when these memories and things come up, it's not always a bad thing. And sometimes you will have like a crying emotional release in like a happy way, right? In like thank goodness I can finally forgive this person, or vice versa. I can forgive myself for whatever has been happening, right? So, buddy, can I have my notes, please? Thank you. Thank you. So, when these things come up during this time, because they're going to come up for most of us, right? It's how we deal with how they come up. And we just need to try to step out of the fear and just observe, okay, why would this memory be here? Why does this keep coming up, right? What could it be that maybe I'm supposed to learn about myself, right? Because remember, in the last new moon solar eclipse we just had, we were talking about how it's going to bring up the self-sabotage, the undermining, the poison and toxicity that we do to ourselves, right? And so now that stuff has come up, right? It's still coming up, but now is the time for us to address it and be like, oh my goodness, this has come up several times in my memory. sometimes it makes you emotional, sometimes it doesn't, but a lot of times it'll come up and people are just like, nope, I'm not thinking about that, right? And I've done it, trust me, I've done it. And so what I'm challenging you to do is when that happens, just take a deep breath and be like, okay, let's go into this memory, right? Let's remember what happened. Let's try to reflect in an objective way. Let's ask ourselves, what may I have done to contribute to this situation, right? And you'd be surprised by just acknowledging sometimes that, like, oh, I might owe that person an apology. I shouldn't have said that. Or maybe that wasn't the best way to handle that. You know, that's how we learn. And don't, we talked in the last video, don't judge it. Don't try, like, I know it's hard because we're all programmed to, like, judge and shame. But we have to start, like, breaking out of that and breaking the chains of that programming. So, I think sometimes we just have to, like, acknowledge what's happening. Like, I'm not a perfect human. None of us are perfect humans. I make mistakes. I need to not hold on to this anymore. I make mistakes, so that person obviously also is going to make mistakes. So if I feel like I've been wronged by somebody or I'm owed an apology, like, sometimes you have to move forward and you're never going to get an apology. Right? Ooh. Okay. Sometimes you have to figure out how to forgive and move forward without an apology. And sometimes you get an apology, it doesn't make you feel any better. Okay? But I can guarantee you that, like, apologizing will make you feel better. At least acknowledging, like, if you've wronged somebody, like, think about it. If you've been wronged, right, you want an apology. You feel like, I need to have an apology to forgive you, to move forward. Not always, but sometimes. So reverse it, right? If something comes up that shows you how you wronged somebody, then you know that you would want an apology, right? It kind of goes back to the rule, do unto others as you would have them do to you. Like, that's just always a really good rule in life because, we're all imperfect. Okay? That's it. We're all imperfect. All right. We talked about expect miscommunication, mix-ups, unexpected events, reflection. We already talked about reviewing and closing chapters. That's kind of what we were talking about with, like, forgiveness. And that goes the same with, like, forgiving yourself. If you acted outside of yourself in a situation and, like, you can't, let's say you're out of town and you go into a store and something happens and you act outside yourself, right? And then you leave and you get back home in a different state and you start reflecting and you're like, man, I acted outside of my character. I cannot believe I let that person get me that riled up or whatever, be that mean or whatever it is. And I'm not going to be able to drive back thousands of miles. The person that I flipped out on might not even be there anymore because they could have been traveling too, right? So in situations like that, that's when it's like you sit with yourself, you forgive yourself. You're like, okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try next time in a similar situation like this. I'm going to try to calm things down and not, well, I was going to say not be triggered, but that's impossible, right? We all get triggered. So the key is the next time I'm triggered, I'm going to try not to act outside myself. I'm going to try first to take a deep breath, right? Oh, and he starts purring really loud. We like the breathing exercises, don't we, Bubba? He likes to participate in our yoga when we do yoga as well. So the breathing, right? Some people need to like burn off steam, go for a run, whatever it is. Like, start developing your coping mechanisms, right? The goal here on earth is mastery, self-mastery, mastery of self, right? We're not here for all of the other extraneous stuff. Is all that stuff fun and exciting experiences and sometimes traumatizing and emotionally abusive experiences? Yes. But the main goal we're here is to like learn and grow, and all of this stuff around us and the external helps us do that, right? So if every day we can be a little bit better than the day before, we're working towards self-mastery, right? Okay, let's see. All right, we talked about that already. Okay, I don't know if I mentioned it, but the full moon is on May 5th. It's in Scorpio. I don't think I mentioned the date. It's in Scorpio. Again, it's a lunar eclipse. So we have full moon energy, lunar eclipse energy, and what? Mercury retrograde, okay? A lot of intensity happening. Good idea to keep our energy fields clean. If we're, if you've ever been in an environment, in a public environment, whatever, somebody walks in the room, all of a sudden you're like, ooh, the energy has changed. Like, I suddenly feel uneasy. Listen to those feelings, right? Clean and clear your energy when you leave that experience, however you want to do it. By saging, by spray, candles, salt baths, light meditations, sound baths, right? Crystals. There are tons and tons of ways. Meditation, yoga. I mean, almost anything can be energy clearing if in your mind's eye you're focusing your intent and your energy on energy clearing, right? Like when I garden and it's really sunny out, I will, in my mind's eye while I'm gardening, I will imagine the sunlight is permeating my aura and cleaning and clearing my chakras and putting me into energetic tip-top shape, right? And I try to do that on a regular basis, and it does help how you feel. Trust me, it does. And that's just one way, Also, sometimes when I'm in the shower, I imagine the shower is like bright violet flame light pouring all over me, cleaning and clearing all of the just energetic muck, right? That's out and about in the world. Okay. So this full moon, all this stuff is coming up we talked about. It's going to push us and prompt us to be vulnerable, right? To face the deepest things we've been burying. We're going to have to be raw. We're going to have to be vulnerable. And it's okay if you're not at the place yet where you can be raw and vulnerable with others. The most important thing on the journey is being open and honest and authentic to yourself, right? We all know what it's like to lie to ourselves, okay? Denial, right? The most important thing on this journey when you're developing and connecting to your intuition is being honest with yourself, right? Being raw and emotionally vulnerable with yourself. You can sit alone in a room and look in a mirror. I'm just putting on my hands felt a little dry, folks, sorry. putting on a little oil here. Okay. Also cleaning and clearing the energy of my hands very well. Before I touch the cards, I've already cleaned and cleared the environment. Get some of my heart space there. I was out and about in the world today. As you can see, my arms, I'm okay. I just donated platelets. Nothing's wrong. In case anyone was wondering. Okay. Well, he's like, I'm out. Too smelly for me, Mom. Sorry, bub. Oh, you're going to cuddle in your box? Okay. All right. Well, he sensed it's time for cards. Okay. So, again, be like, sometimes it's good to just look yourself in the mirror and be like, what is happening? Or, you know, like, why did you lie about that? Or, you know, why did you get so angry? Like, not in a loving way, right? Not in a like, what the fuck is wrong with you kind of way. In a loving, like, inquisitive, understanding, compassionate way. Okay, in case anyone was wondering, I was drinking my little 3 Spirits drink. Not sponsored, but go look them up. 3 Spirits, it's like a plant-based pseudo wine, so it's super healthy for you. No hangover. It's wonderful. Okay, so I talked earlier about whatever's coming up. It's time to deal with it, right? Be raw with yourself. You can sit alone in a room. You don't have to tell anyone yet if you're not ready, if you're not at that place, because first you have to be able to be real and open and honest with yourself before you can start to project that out into the external of your world, okay? So, the thing is, it's time, because Mercury Retrograde is unburying all this stuff, and then Scorpio energy's coming in, and Scorpio is like, look, I yearn and desire meaningful emotional depth and interaction. I cannot deal with the shallow, okay? So Scorpio energy is like, I cannot deal with the shallow. In the moon and in the sun, Taurus energy is like, I'm really into burying my feelings, having wonderful status, high status, wealth, possessions, having my material world be shiny and new, right? And Scorpio was like, nope, I need depth. I need vulnerability, rawness, emotional realness, and growth and connection. If with no one else, myself, okay? Because again, this is about like us going in, doing what we need. So, what's gonna happen is, and I want to mention, when I say Scorpio energy desires like this deep, meaningful, it's not all traumatic, right? It doesn't all have to be traumatic. Being vulnerable and raw doesn't have to be all traumatic. It's how we frame it in our mind, okay? But is it sometimes traumatic and emotionally abusive? Yes, okay? Taylor Swift's new song, Anti-Hero, I think, one of her new songs, says it perfectly. It says, life can be emotionally abusive. And boy, she is not wrong about that, okay? But that just happens, right? But life can also be wonderful and amazing and surprise us, and the impossible can happen, right? So we need to connect with ourselves, with our inner child. We need to surrender and start healing our issues and our traumas and our poisonous patterns and thoughts and behaviors, right? And you know, everything is 2 steps forward, 1 step back, right? That's kind of how it works sometimes. And sometimes you'll get on a roll and you'll go like 4 steps forward and then whoop, 2 back, right? It's part of it. It's part of the process. It's part of mastery, right? Practice, hone, tweak, adjust, adapt, okay? So don't judge it, right? So let's just face whatever it is that's coming, right? Because Scorpio wants meaningfulness, right? We need to balance these 2 energies that are happening. And the best way to do that is discernment, people. Discern. Learn to discern. I am going to do a video here soon for the Shadow Work series about learning to discern, okay? I want us to make sure we're trying our best to make any decisions we make during this time integrated. And what I mean by that is mind, body, intuition. Okay? Because we can't, like most of the time we're just making decisions from our mind and our ego, right? And occasionally an intuition gets in there, but rarely do we ask ourselves, how does this decision feel in my body? Okay? A good thing to do is, right? Like we talked in the last video too about no rash decisions, right? Sleep on it. Think it through, but not in your head, in your heart. Combine your head and your heart, right? So the first way to do that is in your body, okay? To connect to your intuition, you want to start with your body. The mind already is figured out, right? Because our mind is always going. So we don't have to worry about that right now because the mind is just going to chime, right? So first we need to get in a quiet, breathe, quiet the mind, then ask ourselves, whatever the decision is, okay? Should I don't know. I don't think I have any major decisions I'm mulling over right now. Okay, should I, this is already kind of a decision I've made, integrated, but we'll use it as an example. Should I continue making shadow work videos? Okay? My mind has a million things to say about it. We're going to quiet the mind, okay? And then I'm going to ask myself, should I continue the shadow work series of videos? Okay, I'm trying to feel what's happening in my body. Okay, getting warm around the heart chakra area. Okay, then I would continue to breathe into that, right? And sometimes this takes longer than like 5 minutes. So that's why I'm just giving you like a short little, right, of like how. And then once you start to get that feeling in your body, try to go further. Intuition, soul. What do you say? Right? What is your opinion? Should I continue making these videos? Okay. Your first stirring of messages you're going to feel them in your body with like tingles, probably goosebumps. I sometimes know when I'm supposed to, or when I'm on the right track for something. When I will get goosebumps over my whole, like from my feet to my head, like, right? So for me, that's the first signal ooh, ooh, okay. The body feels a little excited by this idea. Then that's how you get to your intuition to open up, right? And I talked in the last video, or one of the last videos, I talked sometime in April, I talked about how the reason we need to sleep on things, especially on the beginning of our journey of growth, is because our intuition and the universe and the messages start coming in usually through dreams for a lot of people, okay? It's not always dreams first, but for the majority of humans, dreams is where it starts to like crack open, okay? So pay attention to your dreams. Keep a notebook by your bed. Trust me on this. I've had many things come up in the middle of the night, and sometimes I'm like, what? But it feels so real, and I'll write it down, and then I fall back asleep, and then the next day I'll read it, and it'll come back to me, and then it'll start spurring the body feelings right? And so once we get in tune with the body and the intuition, then we can add in the mind, because excuse me, because the mind already will just take over if we let it. So we have to consciously, it's not your turn yet, right? Sometimes you have to be like, shh, and just let the thoughts pass by. Like, don't attach to them, let them happen. But that's how you start to quiet down the mind. And then once we get these two solid anchors in body feelings, intuition, then the mind can chime in, because then whatever the mind says, the body and the intuition are in tune and will alert you. Nope, not a good idea. Ooh, yeah, go this way, right? That's also how you stay in flow, or how you can step into flow if you're not already, is by slowing down and connecting and looking at the signs, right? There are signs everywhere, I promise. Okay, we talked about the shadow work series. Oh, I'm gonna do a video on discernment. Stay tuned, keep an eye out for that. Okay, we talked about balancing the energies. Okay, now we talked about sitting with decisions. One of the other things I want to point out, when we're sitting with the decisions, when we're doing all the things I was just describing, okay, we want to trust, right? We're going to need to trust in ourselves. We're going to need to check in with our personal values, right? Like, and you'll know in your body if something doesn't align with your personal values. If you feel like, I feel icky doing this, or this feels wrong to me, right? Actually, I just had it happen to me this morning. And I'm kicking myself, but I'm not going to beat myself up for it because I'm only human. But I was leaving the platelet place, and there was an older gentleman, like 80s probably, standing at the corner of a very, very busy highway, okay? And I was like blocked in traffic everywhere. Behind a cars beside me, okay? And this poor old man, he was like waiting for the light to change so he could walk across the street. And clearly he had like a neurological something, I think. And there's a hospital over there, so I think he was like walking to his appointment at the hospital or whatever. But it was so heartbreaking. He could barely walk, and he was like losing his balance. And this road is like very busy, like a highway road almost. And so he wasn't getting across in the time, like the light changed because he was barely moving, and he would have to stop and like catch his balance so he didn't fall over. And oh my gosh, in my body and in my intuition, it felt horrible, because I wanted to jump out of the car and help the man across the street. But I couldn't just leave my car sitting in traffic with nobody driving it, right? And so, I had, and then the light changed and it was like turning and he was enough across. And so I had to go with the flow of traffic. I turned, but I like pulled over and I stopped and I looked back to make sure he got across the street. He did. And so that's what I'm talking about. That was like the first feeling was in my body. Like, this does not agree with my values. I should be helping that man who clearly needs assistance. So that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, you'll know if something is against your values or your integrity. Okay? Okay, and let's pull some cards. So I just want to say, one more last thing I wrote down. Don't be afraid to express yourself from your emotions, from the deepest part of you, from your inner child, okay? Because, like, it'll help you. Okay, I promise it will. Okay, let me get a drink of water here. Okay. What crystal will be helpful during this full moon lunar eclipse, Mercury Retrograde? My goodness. Anything else? Okay, yes. Something else. Something else. Or not. There it is. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Ooh. Peridot. Peridot. It's green. I have some, but it's in the other room. And turquoise. Oh. It's funny today. I kept hearing, wear blue stones. Turquoise. Okay. So, peridot and turquoise, blue and green. What did I just say? Express yourself from the deepest part of you. Be raw. Throat chakra, blue. Peridot, heart chakra, green. Right? Turquoise, blue. All right. With that, we must pull from the psychic. Or the psychic tarot for the heart. For the heart. There's been some heart-themed stuff happening lately. I think in the last video, right? Everything was like green, and they wanted me to use a green pen in my notes even. Green decks again. Anything else that we need to know for this full moon lunar eclipse, Mercury Retrograde? I don't know what is happening. Why am I singing like this? It's crazy. I'm getting goofy. Okay, there it is. Oh, okay. I'm getting goofy, people. Deep and flow, the spirits are affecting me. Ooh. Seek the truth. Flow. Okay? I recently, in this reading, said what? Be real with yourself. Be truthful with yourself. This is how you step into flow, connecting, integrating all three bodies for decision making. Okay? Yeah, let me just sit with these cards for a minute. Yeah, okay. Immediately. Oh, also interesting. Blue. I put it right next to the find your way home. I didn't notice that before. Turquoise. Okay, look at this. Two faces here. what I'm getting, what I got immediately when I looked down was like, okay, again, in the last eclipse, I said, watch the animals, use the animals as support. I just heard that again because this card is full of like 4 different kinds of animals, and this is birds, right? Yeah, this guy is totally surrendering. Okay, so this is what I'm getting. These 2 faces here, like, the mask is done, right? What was I saying? The Scorpio energy is very much about like emotional depth, authenticity, right? In the last eclipse, we were talking about taking accountability for our own poisonous, self-sabotaging, undermining things in our life, right? Take responsibility for those things. Take ownership. Be empowered and start to solve and change and transform, solve the problems. And so this eclipse is about like, now that you know what all the problems are and a lot of the stuff that came up, like, there's no other path. The shallowness will not work. You must rip the mask, walk through, okay, to step into the flow. Okay, be open, honest, truthful with yourself on your own self-mastery journey, right? It's about self-mastery. You need to self-master your own truth and be authentic. I keep hearing like, don't lie to yourself, okay? The worst thing we can do is to not be honest with ourselves. And here he is. Okay, I'm feeling called to pull a language of light. Okay, bud, what are you doing? I think he's trying to get to the window to watch the rain. All right. What is the advice? We're wrapping it up. This is the last card I just heard. Oh, and then we're going to read the magic face. Okay. What is the advice for everyone watching to get through this full moon in Scorpio, lunar eclipse, Mercury Retrograde? That is a mouthful. An energetic mouthful. Wow. Meditation and joy. And it's funny, I just heard that's why the goofiness. Okay. That's why the goofiness. Be joyful. When you're dealing with the mirror, when you're facing the hard stuff, you don't have to wallow in it. You don't have to approach it always from a miserable aspect, right? Like, be joyful about it. Make up a goofy song in dealing with your trauma. I do that shit all the time. I'll be like in the bathroom getting ready, putting makeup on. I'm like, why do you keep doing this to yourself? I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't even sing very well. Okay? So I'm just saying, it helps bring levity sometimes to the heavy stuff we have to face and grieve and deal with, right? So the advice, meditation, which I just heard you already demonstrated, right? The connecting to the self, the sleeping on it, the pausing, the trying to integrate our decisions, and then don't forget to be joyful, right? Because that's how, and I just also heard, and that's how you know you're in the flow, because you're joyful, okay? Also, there's a little Merkaba shape in there, which we always like, right? Merkaba. See? It's like, I don't know. Have I always been singing in these readings? I don't recall. I don't think so. Okay, something new. Oh, we have a singer song. Okay. All right, well, you're welcome. I'm sorry if I butcher it. I just heard like There's a singer spirit here. I wonder who. Oh, I see. Okay, you guys, let's read the magic days, because let's just see for the full moon what it says. May 5th, right? May 5th. Again, magic days, Nadine Jane. This is such a fun little book. Okay. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, May 5th. Welcome to May 5th, a self-led adventure that requires you to trust. Do what you want today without asking for permission. Ooh. Despite the harmonious nature of Taurus season, autonomy invites you to carve your own path and make things up as you go. Rely on your instinct whenever you are at a loss today, and know that you can't go wrong if you are listening to yourself. In this self-trust, you will discover the power of manifestation. Believe in your earthly ideas by planting seeds of potential that you hope to grow into a future bounty. Apply that to your job. Buy the supplies needed to make that garden. Interesting, I talked about gardening earlier. Interesting. Or do your first push-up on the road to a stronger body. No matter what it is, now is the day to begin. But don't take the highs and lows too personally, right? Impertinence encourages you to rely on faith rather than giving away your power to your external circumstances. If things go perfectly today, so be it. If things don't go as planned, so be it. Ride the roller coaster and try your best to stay open to the fateful perspectives you'll gain along the way. Today's mantra: I can pursue the things I want most while surrendering the outcome to fate. Okay. Today's journal prompt: how high or low does my confidence in myself feel today? Okay. And then today's ritual: start your day by watching a detailed video on how a plant grows. I mean, this gardening, it's a thing. Pay attention to how it is planted and tended to, and the metamorphosis it undergoes over time. Carry this visual throughout your day as you decide what goal you would like to grow in your life. I mean, that is brilliant, and it supports everything we've already talked about. Thank you, Spirit, spiritual team, universe, source, Gaia, all energies that have contributed today. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day, week, weekend, whatever it is. And I'll see you next time, okay? Namaste.